One second. Hello there, it's Susie Walker, Editor-in-Chief at Psychologies magazine, and I am delighted to be joined this evening by the amazing, wonderful Julia Cameron, who is the best-selling author of The Artist's Way. Hello, Julia.
Hello, Susie. Good to be here. I love it that
good to see you.
I love it that you have a copy of the new Profiles Artist's Way book. I think it's handsome.
Okay, we've got that, but I wanted to show you also this one. So this is my copy, and it's got scribbles on it. So I have to confess straight away that I am a massive fan of The Artist's Way, and it has changed my life on so many. I generally do it once a year. I have missed a couple of years, but I've been doing it since 2008, every year. And your work has transformed the way I think, what I do, my daily habits, from the morning pages to the artist date, which we'll talk about later. You helped me to divorce my first husband, but that often isn't a great thing. So I just want to say, first of all, a massive thank you to you, Julia, because your work has impacted me profoundly. So thank you. That's where I'd like to start.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm so glad always when I hear that the work has sort of been a building block in somebody's creative life. And it certainly sounds as if you have been building on it for many years. And I'm deeply grateful to you for that.
Oh. Well, Julia, what we've done is Julia, if anybody doesn't know who Julia Cameron is and they don't know why I'm so in awe of speaking to her tonight. So Julia Cameron is being called by the New York Times the Queen of Change. She's written 40 books, every nonfiction, fiction, screenplays, songwriting, films. The Artist's Way has sold over 5 million copies and has been translated into over 40 languages. It's a really big deal that we've got Julia tonight. I have gone out to all our readers and I've looked at all the questions, and I've chosen 3 questions that I'd like to put to you from our readers before I want to ask all the questions I want to ask. But first of all, we have a reader called Katie Poole, and she asks, your words and your creative practices have resonated with so many people across the world. Where do you believe your innate wisdom comes from? Were you spiritual growing up? Then question.
Okay, so that's several questions. Was I spiritual growing up? I believed in nature, and I would go out in the woods and I would sit by a little creek and I would listen to see if I could hear water spirits. And I was sort of naturally, intuitively spiritual growing up. Now, the question that you asked of where does my wisdom come from? I think I'm guided. I have been on a spiritual path for 42 years, and I ask questions. I write morning pages, and then I go, LJ, little Julie wants to know, and she asks a question like, what do I need to tell the audience today? And I need to say, we are all guided. So I don't think that my wisdom is any deeper than anyone else's. It's just that I've been listening for a very long time.
I mean, I love that idea about this idea of listening and getting yourself out of the way. And you talked about the morning pages there. Just tell us a little bit about what the morning pages are and why it's a great tool for listening to that wisdom.
Okay. Morning pages are 3 pages of longhand morning writing about absolutely anything. It's as if you take a little tiny broom and stick it into all the corners of your life, and you sweep all of your concerns into the middle of the room where you can begin to deal with them. And I think of morning pages as being a very powerful tool. It's a tool that I would say, guided or led to when I was living atop a mountain in New Mexico, mourning my failed artistic career. And I was saying, Dear God, I can't stand it if you break my heart again with another movie. Give me something else to do. And I wrote morning pages. That was what I was given to do. And every morning I would get up and I would say, I forgot to buy kitty litter. I didn't call my sister back. The car has a funny knock in it. Everything from the big to the petty. And I would put it on the page, and then I would listen uh, to see if I had any guidance concerning it. And I often did. So I don't know if I've explained morning pages well enough. I sometimes want to say, I have a tool for you. It's a nightmare, and it's work. And people say, oh, work, I understand work. They believe they should work on their creativity. And so they do. And they write morning pages. And what happens is that they are led a step at a time. Morning pages make us expand. They move us in directions of needed growth. They put us in touch with what I would call the benevolent universe. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, and just I think the wisdom that comes through on the page, and you can't ignore it. So when you start writing, as you say, you start writing I'm really cold. I'm always in the morning. I'm really grumpy, Julia. I'm really I probably my blood, but I'm really grumpy. And then slowly there'll be something about 3/4 of the way down the first page, and I'll hit it. There'll be a note that I hit, and I'm like, okay, yeah, and it lets you get beyond this kind of surface stuff in your head. It's like scuba diving, when you're at the top of the ocean, and all the water's going up your nose, and it's really annoying, and then you slowly go down into the ocean, and it gets quieter and quieter and quieter, and then you can hear yourself breathe. And the morning pages feels like that. All of a sudden, you can hear yourself think and hear yourself feel, and then what you truly feel, rather than kind of batting it away all the time. I can't think about that, and it makes you really honest. And when I said about my first husband, divorcing him, it's just that piece around, saying the same thing over and over again, the truth, and you can't ignore it anymore. And when you do the artist way, week after week after week for 12 weeks, it's just, you can't ignore that wisdom anymore. It's a fantastic tool.
Well, I think that what happens is that we are moved into authenticity. I would say we have a Jungian analyst friend of mine said we have 45 minutes before our defenses are in place. So when we get up in the morning and go straight to the page, we're being more authentic. We go to the page and we say, oh my God, I'm grumpy today. I'm cold today. I didn't like the way Frank talked to me in the meeting yesterday. And what happens is, as you put down on the page your precise feelings of this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what I want more of, this is what I want less of. It's as if you're sending a telegram to the universe, letting him know your precise position. And it's a position that is without pretense. You find yourself being more authentic, and you find yourself moving past your ego's concerns into the truth of your soul.
Yeah, I love that, the truth of your soul, absolutely. Talking of truth of your soul, the second question is from Kia Cannons. And her question is, do you believe our creative dreams are predestined, as in placed in our hearts for us to discover? That's the one on our college.
I think this is a good question. Do I believe our creative dreams are predestined? Uh, I, I believe that we have dreams that come to us from a higher source. And that as we move toward our dreams in our morning pages and our artist dates, which we'll talk a little bit about later, we find ourselves, as we move toward our dreams move toward us. And I think that many of us are brought up with the idea of a thwarting God, a God that thinks we're being too uppity if we pursue a dream. And when you write morning pages, you're led to believe in a more benevolent, more encouraging, more sweet-tempered God that doesn't consider your dreams uppity. And instead, I would say your dreams come from God, and God or the universe, however you care to phrase it, has the power to accomplish them. So I believe that what happens is that you are led a step at a time toward your dreams, and your dreams turn out to be within your reach.
Yeah. Can we just pick up on the God piece there? Because if people don't know your work and listen to this, I mean, I love the way you describe it as good orderly direction in the artist's way. But do you need to be spiritual to be able to put this to work?
Absolutely not. I had a conversation a week ago with a man who started our conversation saying, I'm an atheist. And I said, oh, really? I'm a believer. And we went on from there to have a great dialogue. And he said, I've been doing morning pages for 2 decades. And I have written 13 movies and 2 television series. And I found myself saying, well, you don't believe in God, but God clearly believes in you. And so I think what happens, I say at the very beginning of the Artist's Way, it's called a spiritual path. But I say, don't let semantics get in the way. I frequently say God now, but I also say universe, higher power, force. There are many different phrases for what is essentially an experience of rightness and largeness, expansion, and even humor. So don't be put off if I say God. Just know that you can substitute flow, good orderly direction.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, that really helps. It's just God can be quite a triggering word for many, many people. And what I love about what you write about in the book is it doesn't matter. You don't have to believe or not. You just need to do the work. So the main tools are the artist, the morning pages, and then the artist date, which you just mentioned earlier. So we're in the middle of lockdown at the moment, we're just about to come out of it, I think, in the UK. But tell us about the artist date and how we manage it in lockdown.
Okay, so in normal times, an artist date is a once a week solo, festive, fun, frivolous, fun, enjoyable, delightful expedition to do something that enchants you. So then you say, well, my God, I can't leave my house. What can I do? And the answer is you can do many things. You can listen to a piece of music that you've never listened to. You can listen to a podcast that sounds too frivolous. You can take a bubble bath. What I do is I sketch I don't consider myself to be a visual artist, but I sketch a familiar, beloved object, and that puts me in touch with my delight over it. So I think people have taken up carpentry. They've taken up doing nail art with Swarovski crystals that they get online. There are many different things. Baking, I think, is a fantastic artist state. So is making a pot of homemade vegetable soup. So it's just something that delights you and nurtures your soul. I think a lot of times rereading a childhood book. I recently reread The Black Stallion, and it was a book I had read when I was 9 or 10. And I read it now, and I found it delightful. So
Is that Black Beauty?
No, The Black Stallion is a book by Walter Farley, and it's was made into a movie by Francis Ford Coppola, and it's this.
Okay.
Okay.
Go on. Here's the story. Okay, but so you're talking. I mean, these are beautiful examples of artist dates. I remember when I first started the Artist Way, my son was very small, and it was very difficult for me to get out. So I was painting and doing things that allowed me to do it indoors. So I think in lockdown, it's still no excuse not to be able to do the Artist Way. But I love that you're saying frivolous and fun, because I remember being ever so serious when I started. And, you know, I was thinking I had to listen to opera and I had to do like high art because I thought that's what to do. But I ended up, you know, painting those kind of mugs and doing really silly, as you say, frivolous things. And I think that there's a freedom, you know, the experimentation. You talk a lot about overcoming perfectionism in the Artist date, and for me, the Artist Way, and the Artist date for me allows you just to get messy and to play and to have fun. What's your favorite Artist date? Let's say this year. What's the best artist? Oh, do you even do it? Do you even do the Artist dates anymore?
I have an Artist date that I really love, which I can't do in lockdown, but I can remember with glee, and that is that I go to a pet store called Critters and Us. And in the pet store, they have a bunny, a giant bunny named George. And George is alive and well and hopping around the store. And you're allowed to pet George. So my favorite Artist date is petting George. And I live with a puppy, which maybe we could bring her in here and I could show you. So we can
what kind of dog is she?
She's a West Highland Terrier.
What kind of dog?
A white West Highland Terrier. And she's delightful and delicious. And I pet her all the time, and here she is. This is who I live with.
Oh, who is this? What's her name? What's her name?
Her name is Lily. And recently my
Hi,
daughter.
Lily.
Oh, there, she pays attention. So,
Lily.
Yeah, she hears
you. Hi. Oh my goodness, the best Artist date ever. Just that. Yeah. Oh.
So I live with Lily, and Lily keeps me perked up. So I hope I've explained Artist dates are work, but they bring you a sense of benevolence. I think a lot of times when people take Artist dates, they experience a sense of good orderly direction, the higher power, a feeling that there is a larger benevolent something or somebody paying attention to us. I think,
I mean, you talk about synchronicity, and was it Joseph Campbell, the thousand helping hands?
right.
Was it Joseph Campbell who said that? Yeah.
Joseph
So this
Campbell
idea
said,
that we're supported.
yes.
Yeah.
And so I think what happens is that with Morning Pages, we're putting our dreams and our discontents. You said you got a divorce. That was
Yeah.
recognizing a discontent that kept recurring. And so Morning Pages give you a sense of flow. And then when you do an artist date, you find yourself feeling a sense of possibility. And
Yeah.
I often say that the part of us that creates, well, maybe we're all sort of sick of hearing about the inner child, but the part of us that creates is a festive youngster with big dreams.
Yeah, it's so true. So from that festive youngster, the question I want to talk about is the shadow artist, and how do we bring ourselves into the light? So can you explain what a shadow artist is? How do we recognize that within, and how do we pull ourselves out into the light and start creating for ourselves rather than hiding behind someone else?
Okay, so that's several questions. So first question is, what is a shadow artist? And a shadow artist is someone who has a dream but lacks the confidence to pursue the dream. And so they put themselves in the shadow of an acknowledged artist, or in the shadow of an acknowledged creative career. So a woman who wants to be a photographer may find herself becoming a photographer's rep for other photographers and not pursuing her authentic dream. And what happens with shadow artistry is that we beat ourselves up. We say, oh, if only you had more courage. And often what happens with shadow artists is that they feel that they're unworthy. And when they do Morning Pages, they get a little bit of a nudge. For myself, it was music. The Morning Pages kept saying, you will be writing radiant songs. And I kept thinking, I'm 45 years old. If I were the least bit musical, I would know it. My brother is a composer. My sister is a musician. I'm in their shadow. And the pages kept telling me, well, you will write radiant songs. And I thought, that's impossible. And then one day I was sitting in the Rocky Mountains like I was as a little child next to a stream, and I heard, in the greenwood shadows lengthen, in the greenwood rivers flow, in the emerald heart of darkness, lovers know the things they know. And I thought, my God, I think it's a song. So,
and what did you do with it? Did you write it down? Did you record it? Did you sing it? What did you do?
I ran up the hill to my friends and I said, I've heard a song and it goes like this. And she said, here, sing it into this. And she had a little teeny tape recorder. So what happened is that I started writing songs, and it was something I didn't believe I could do. So
you stepped out of being the shadow, in the shadow, into the light. So what is the process? So I love the piece of in the book you talk, it's never too late. It's never too late to kind of step out of the shadow. There's a quote you said, do you know how old I'll be by the time I learn to play the piano? and then you write, the same age you will be if you don't. That's one of my favorite quotes in the book. It's never too late. Never too late to step out of the shadows. But what is the process? How do we start listening to our own song and step out?
I think what happens is that you write in the morning pages, and they will suggest a risk, and you'll think, oh, I couldn't do that. And you put it aside.
Yeah.
And then you write in the morning pages, and they'll suggest the risk again. And you'll say, I don't think I could do that. And then you write in the morning pages, and they will say, you will do that. And you find yourself saying, well, I could try. And so what happens is you find yourself singing, my green heart is filled with apples. Your dark face is filled with stars. You are the one that I've forgotten. You are the one my heart desires. So you're led a step at a time to taking risks, and your only audience at first is your morning pages. And you try a risk, and they say, congratulations, you did it. How wonderful.
I mean, I'm a great believer in big leaps, so I would hear that song and I would try and record it and then say that, and then I would feel very disappointed because, don't be ridiculous, you can't do. You talk about blocks a lot in The Artist's Way, whether it's external blocks or internal blocks. One of the most the ones that fascinates me most is the idea of crazy makers. I have a lot of crazy makers, or I have in my life in the past had a lot of crazy makers in our lives as one of the blocks. What are the most popular, not popular, that's the wrong word, the blocks that you see that stop people the most from being creative?
A couple of things. I think people are afraid of being too big for their britches. And I think that they have a fear that it's, quote, just my ego. And I think that they're afraid they're going to be punished. We have sort of got superstition around, if I take a risk, the heavens will part, and a booming voice will say, how dare you? So people are afraid of risking for fear of punishment. And I think people are afraid of risking for fear of their perfectionism. We don't want to do something unless we can do it perfectly. And so I think a lot of times people have a feeling that they shouldn't try because they're measuring themselves against the masterpieces of accomplished artists. And they're not realizing that many times, I mean, people will say to me, Julia, aren't you worried you're unblocking a lot of bad art? And I will say, actually, my experience is the opposite. My experience is that many of the people that get unblocked are far more talented than the people we've had at center stage. But the difference is that people who are blocked have usually not had encouragement, proper encouragement. They've instead had discouragement. They've had a parent or a teacher who says to them, oh, don't you think you might need something to fall back on? So they're frightened that they're being too uppity. And we have a mythology that tells us artists are going to be broke. And Instead, we need to believe that our creativity can lead us into pathways that are positive and even lucrative. But I think it's hard for people who haven't had support to go bravely ahead. And this is where we need to have what I call believing mirrors. And these are people in our life who say to us, "Oh, I think you can do that. Oh, I'll bet you are musical. Oh, I think it's wonderful that you're writing a novel." Instead of saying, "Have you got a publisher?" So believing mirrors are people who are positive on our own behalf.
Yeah. Okay. So I know where my time with you is up. It's 30 minutes now, Julia. So I want you to look into the camera, and I want you to be our psychology's believing mirror. And I want you to give some encouragement to all the people out there who are shadow artists, who want to write that novel or to hear that song or to live a more creative life. What would you say to us?
Looking into the camera right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Is that it? If I'm up like this, a little higher.
That's good. I can see you. Yes.
Okay.
That's perfect.
I want to say, use a few simple tools. Give yourself the right to do morning pages. Give yourself the right to take an artist date. And listen for the little voice that says, maybe you should try. And maybe you should try. And I believe that we are all profoundly creative. I believe that we have all got deep gifts. And I think that as we write, we are led. And as we are led, we are able to manifest our dreams. So I want to say to you, just try. Okay?
Yeah. Oh, Julia, I feel weepy. I feel really emotional. Thank you so much for your time today. This is the beautiful new hardback version of The Artist's Way. If you want to transform your life, I challenge you to read this book and just see where it will take you, and just try. Julia Cameron, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you a million times for all the inspiration you've given to millions of people all over the world, and to me personally. So thank you.
Thank you, Susie. It was a pleasure to meet you. So
lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.